right, well, what an impressive panel. While we're shifting in the room here, I'll tell you, non-commissioned officers are the advantage we have in the Pacific between all the services and then allies and partners. That was incredible. Well, it's my honor now to introduce our next keynote speaker. Let me ask you in the middle if you could take your seats or move on out, either one. Thanks. All right. We're really fortunate to have as our next keynote speaker Brigadier General Olusegun Thavunisanga, commander of the Land Forces Republic of Fiji Military Forces. He assumed his appointment in March of 2020 and is responsible for the land forces of the Republic of Fiji Military Forces. He was entrusted and confirmed to hold various senior appointments within the Republic of Fiji Military Forces locally and abroad. And what do you hear about where he has been? It's impressive. During 40 years of dedicated service, Brigadier General Thavunisanga has served abroad with the South Pacific Peacekeeping Force in Bougainville, Papua New Guinea, multinational force and observers in the Sinai. He served with United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, United Nations Assistance Mission in Iraq, and finally, United Nations Mission in East Timor. I mean, talk about experience, just impressive. So please join me in a warm welcome for Brigadier General Thavunisanga.
Thank you, General Brown, for the introduction. Aloha, Bula, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I'd like to thank the organizers, AUSA, for hosting the symposium, one that continues to highlight the role of land forces in the Indo-Pacific theater and the contributions to the joint force in peace and in war. Today, I have been tasked to speak on defending the sea and air from land from the Fijian Army perspective. First and foremost, allow me to highlight Fiji's context. Fiji is a small island nation located in the Southwest Pacific. We are surrounded by water, and our livelihoods are closely linked to the sea. Due to the isolation of Fiji within the Pacific Ocean, the traditional threats within the conflict space, interstate war and armed conflicts, territorial conflicts, and border tensions are minimum to non-existent in the Fiji's defense context. However, non-traditional threats such as climate change and environmental degradation, natural disasters, transnational crime, human trafficking, and drugs are more prominent threats that we encounter. To effectively defend against the sea and air domain from land in the space of non-traditional threats, the Republic of Fiji Military Forces, or the RFMF, through the Land Force Brigade, utilizes comprehensive and layered approach to address our challenges. This is because we are a very small army and we do not have the resources and platforms that most of you, our bigger brothers, have to conduct our operations. From an RFMF and Land Forces perspective, the following are the frameworks that we use and rely on to address these challenges. Commitment to rules-based order and institutions, whole-of-government approach, a combat-ready and agile army, and partnerships. Fiji relies on the maintenance of the rules-based order and institutions. Fiji has been a member of the United Nations since its independence and currently contributes heavily to peacekeeping around the world. To date, we currently have a brigade-sized land force that contributes heavily to peacekeeping. We have currently around 499 soldiers deployed to various missions around the world. And these include the multinational forces in Egypt, the United Nations Disengagement Observer Force between Syria and Israel, the United States Assistance Mission in Iraq, and we also have observers in Lebanon, Yemen, and in Sudan. Peacekeeping is important to Fiji, as the same peace, stability, and peace operations that we commit ourselves to overseas guarantees our security as a country. This also includes the reliance on international norms of the rules-based order to protect against illegal fishing, transnational crime, drug trafficking, and mechanisms to conduct recourse on issues that may arise. In terms of frameworks and institution, Fiji under the Pacific Island Forum relies on agreements such as the Boe Declaration that ensures that we have a regional security approach to first have a collective voice in addressing our security challenges such as climate security, human security and humanitarian assistance, environment and resource security, transnational crime, cyber-enabled crime and cybersecurity, creating an enabling environment for implementation, including an appropriate coordination mechanism. In terms of a region defending the sea and air from land for non-traditional threats, our most important tool is a collective Pacific voice and collaboration between our various agencies. The premise is that although we are small, but collectively as Pacific Island states, we create a web of interconnectedness that allows us to address issues in the sea and air. Domestically addressing non-traditional threats in the sea or air from land requires a whole-of-government approach. Fiji, due to its limited economic and land forces capability, relies on the whole-of-government approach to defend against these threats. Our law enforcers are reliant on government's emergency powers with our National Disaster Management Office and the resources of government to deploy and conduct operations using commercial maritime vessels and our national airline, Fiji Airways, especially during climate change-induced events such as cyclones. Fiji's land forces mission is the generation of combat-effective and agile land forces that will allow it to compete and win across the spectrum of conflict. Given our limited resources, the main effort is to have a highly trained army that can conduct operations across the conflict spectrum. In terms of future operations, the RFMF Land Forces sees itself as part of a bigger regional force under Australia or New Zealand to provide the platform that can allow it to defend the sea and air from the land, but mostly in a regional context. To this extent, the land forces, with the support of the government and its higher headquarters, conducts readiness exercises and exchanges with USAPAC, the Bubale Partnership with Australian Defence Forces, and the Nduawata Partnership with New Zealand Defence Force. Some notable exercises that we conduct are USAPAC and the Nevada Guard State Partnership. Every year in September, we conduct an exercise in Fiji, co-hosted with the US Army Pacific, called Cartwheel. Cartwheel is named after Operation Cartwheel, which was a major military operation during the Second World War in the Pacific. Exercise Cartwheel was initially a bilateral exercise between Fiji land forces and U.S. Army Pacific. However, it has now expanded to a multilateral exercise where we have also included partners from Australia, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, and recently observers and participants from Tonga. The exercise ensured that our forces continue to meet a high level of comprehensive readiness for unified land operations, to enhance operational capability of joint forces, as well as promoting the sharing of mutually beneficial information among the forces and the strengthening of our ties between partner nations. The Buvale partnership with the Australian Defence Force includes a training and exchange series called Coral Warrior. The Coral Warrior program, which is funded by Australia, has progressed from a single Coral Soldier partnership between the 3rd Battalion Fiji Infantry Regiment and the 8th-9th Battalion from Australia, to where we have a series of Coral SEPA with the RFMF engineers and the Australian engineers, the Coral Sustainer between the Logistic Battalion RFMF and its Australian counterpart, and the Coral Peacekeeper, which is between the Joint Task Force Command, which handles our peacekeeping operations overseas. Recently, under the Buvale partnership, Australian Air Force has deployed a C-27 aircraft to be stationed in Fiji for over a period of 2 weeks, allowing us the flexibility to plan and execute our air operations. Additionally, the Australian Defence Force provides airlift for Fiji for our troops for peacekeeping mission rotations. The Nduawata partnership is the training exchanges with New Zealand under the Nduawata partnership, where Fiji's Infantry Battalion is partnered with 2nd 1st Battalion to conduct training and attachment both in Fiji and in New Zealand. Recent developments have included the Pacific Small Armies Forum. This is a New Zealand Army-funded working group initiated by the current outgoing New Zealand Chief of Army, Major General John Boswell, and it includes Fiji, Tonga, Vanuatu, and the Papua New Guinea Army. The purpose of the forum is to collaborate and shape how a future Pacific Small States Infantry Company group composition could be organized to address any regional issues should the need arise. We have established a Rapid Response Infantry Company group within the RFMF, which is capable of a variety of mission sets. These include HADR, counterterrorism, amphibious operations, air mobile, and special operations tasks. This Rapid Response Infantry Company group allows for the immediate deployment to any emergency and can be deployed through various means throughout Fiji. This is a deployable force that is available for the government of Fiji to address traditional and non-traditional threats. To conclude, smaller Pacific Island states have different priorities in terms of security challenges, which are non-traditional threats such as climate change and environmental degradation, natural disasters, transnational crimes, and human trafficking. And addressing these changes from the land due to our limited capability relies on the whole of government approach and the use of commercial and national platforms, as I've mentioned before. In terms of combat readiness and operations, this will usually be through the regional scope, where our bigger partners are relied upon to provide platforms to ensure we can defend the air and sea from the land. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Mahalo and Vinakavaliu. May God bless us all.
Sir, thank you very much for being here. I know you had to travel a long way, and we're honored to have you here. You know, this morning, General Flynn talked about the strategic land power network and how it can advance a free and open Indo-Pacific. You mentioned a few efforts that you had to leverage regional partnerships. Can you discuss some more successful opportunities that you had and how you can, how these partnerships can be enhanced?
As I've mentioned during my speech this afternoon, we have quite a few partnerships with especially USAPEC. Big exercise in Fiji is, as I mentioned, cartwheel. That exercise has really helped us a lot. And it gives us opportunity to enhance our interoperability between our forces and the forces of a bigger nation. This is not the first time that Fiji has worked with a bigger nation on operations. We are currently still working with U.S. forces in peacekeeping in Sinai, especially the U.S. forces. And it has really helped us in terms of interoperability. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. In the United States, we often hear about the value of the state partnership program from the perspective of the U.S. military. Can you discuss how Fiji's partnership with the Nevada National Guard since 2019 has been valuable for the Fijian military and Fiji's relationship with the United States? Part two, where do you see this partnership going in the future?
Thank you. For the Nevada National Guard partnership, we have a territorial force brigade. These are part-time soldiers, most of which stay in our villages and towns. And we usually deploy with them during peacekeeping operations. They take up 70% of our deployment during peacekeeping, and our regular soldiers or the fully paid soldiers take up the 30%. So when they have partnership with the Nevada State Guard, they upskill their soldiers to meet on an almost level platform or better than sometimes better than the regular force or the full-time soldiers that we have. And we can see this and experience it very well during our normal peacekeeping operations that is ongoing today. And I see this partnership growing. We have our territorial battalion is our territorial brigade is quite big. And we are hoping that all of them go through the training with the Nevada State Guards, something that we are pondering in the future. Thank you.
Sir, thanks for your comments this afternoon. We heard General Flynn discuss this morning how every army in the Indo-Pacific land power network contributes its unique skills towards the goal of preventing conflict. And I think our focus is often on deterring large-scale wars, but military forces also play an essential role in preventing the emergence or re-emergence of conflict of any size by creating the conditions for peace and security. Could you talk a little bit about what the Fijian military has learned from its contributions to UN peacekeeping missions? Thank you.
Thank you. In UN deployments, for peacekeeping especially, we have from our deployments, we have learned the value of our coalition partners. As I said, we are a very small nation. We cannot deploy by ourselves to any of the operations that we are currently participating in. We need our partners, Australia, New Zealand for training, and also for deployments to these peacekeeping areas. So the big lesson that we learn is the value of having coalition partners or having bigger brothers that we can that can shoulder the burden of having a small state going along to operations with them. They provide us with the equipment, they provide us with training, the know-how for us to successfully deploy to these peacekeeping missions. That's perhaps the biggest lesson that we learn. Thank you.
General Mick Bednarik here. Great comments. I really appreciate your engagements with all of us here in the audience. Sir, you highlighted a couple things about training, state partnership program with our Nevada National Guard teammates from the United States, and also some of the smaller island nation and partners that we have. This is all about relationships. It's all about partnership as we look across the land forces in the Pacific. But let me touch on an area of interoperability. So as you've kind of partnered, and sir, you just touched on working with our Aussie partners, New Zealand, et cetera. As you get together from the different equipment sets that you have and working the different missions that you've highlighted, can you tell us some of the challenges that you have seen in the past, and what would you desire to make that better going forward as we look to the future? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Perhaps one of the challenges that we face is the policies of our government. At the moment, for example, we cannot buy overseas equipment for our troops, and that is coming straight from the government. Almost all of our troops need better equipment from our bigger partners, Australia and New Zealand. And the other thing is to have, once you deploy on a coalition, is to have a common equipment table, which we cannot do because of the policies of our government. Perhaps that's the biggest challenge that we are going through now, the policy of our government forbidding us to look elsewhere for better equipment that can help our men and women soldiers. Thank you, sir.
Sir, thank you for being here. Please help me give General Kovanasaka a big round of applause.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.